If I want to work for an analytics firm, it will be a study. So all these things, because I've worked in the ground and I've done that. Maybe it was small, but it is better than somebody who never thought about it. Right? So that's the thing. That added value. I made sure that I sell that thing in the right place, in the right time. So again, that was not, the reason I gave you an example, that was not something that I had in my mind when I was working with high school. That's something that I just happened. And it didn't happen automatically, it happened because I approached Professor Dareshna with a very simple expectation that he would just give me a pat at the back and he'd say, well done. But he did more than that. He said, could we do this? And I was ecstatic to say, yes, absolutely yes. When? And then obviously he backed me up, he wrote my recommendation and I got further fellowships, more money. And we did it, right? We wrote a paper internally for MIT, Education Department. So that's the other idea, that if you again talk to people, if you reach out to them, always don't go and ask them, give me this, give me that all the time, but also see if they will be willing to give it to you and if they're the right people to go and talk to. Sometimes things happen. Unless you interact with people, this kind of thing will not happen. I think that's the message I would give. So I think with that, I recap, which is we're at the end of my presentation here. Doesn't mean that we are at the end of the overall presentation. I think now we'll open up for Q&A, right, sir? So we'll open up for Q&A. Tell me your feedback. Let me know what you think about what we spoke today. If you agree, great. If you don't agree, even better, because that's an opportunity for me to learn. Tell me your experiences. Ask me any questions. So I think this is an open forum.
I'm a student of Department of English and Humanity. I work for Dayton for about a year. I'm working with it. And do you think that the students need teaching from abroad? Only from abroad, and other than that, they cannot do anything better for their future. And isn't it possible to do something better without anything from abroad?
Value is a very tricky thing. Value is whatever people are willing to value it for or appreciate it for, right? So foreign degrees or degrees from abroad are not inherently better. There is nothing that makes them inherently better. So let's say if you go to a great school, if you go to an Ivy League school and don't do anything, right? What's the benefit of that? Yeah. So the degree, I don't think necessarily has any inherent quality in it that makes it better. Now that being said, if I'm an employer and if I don't have any other information to base my opinion on, if I get 2 degrees, and one is from abroad from a reputed university and one is from not such a reputed university, it's common sense that I'd go for the one that's from abroad, or that's from, even within Bangladesh, let's say that's from the better university. That's just reputation for you, right? That's an intangible asset, as I would call it. That's something that you can't necessarily put a money value on, but that happens. And your second question about whether you can do more or you can do for the country with a degree here, absolutely. I have a lot of friends in IBA, especially in the 15th batch and some in the 16th batch. And I think some of them are doing absolutely amazing. Especially I know one guy who was working for HSBC, his name is Tausif Jalal, and now he has his own business, he started his own business. And I think it's absolutely fascinating. I think it requires a lot of courage. And had he been in somewhere else, like a different country, like the way I am, I mean, I have certain constraints. I have to work for a particular time, I want to go back to grad school. That's just my mindset. But he, I think, is a lot more of a free thinker. And I think that has been possible because he studied here in IBA, he has his family here, he has a great support structure here, so he feels that he can do a lot more and he can be a bit creative, right? So he's trying to do something creative here. So yes, he doesn't have the brand right now of working with HSBC or Standard Chartered, but I'm sure if he keeps up with the work in 5 or 10 years, he will be in a much better position than any of them. So yeah, it's definitely.
Do you think that academic grade or the CGPA actually reflect a student's quality or qualification skills? Or the CGPA added value in your career or the profession?
No, GPA has its place, yeah, sure. I think GPA is a lot more important if you are looking at academia. So if you want to go to graduate school, so if you are doing your bachelor's there and then if you want to go get your master's somewhere, or if you want to do your PhD, absolutely. GPA is one of the most important factors. And it makes sense. Why? Because if you are a student of physics, and if you haven't done well in your, let's say, basic foundational physics classes, right? And if you want to do a PhD in that subject, great ambition, but you just don't have the foundation, or your GPA does not indicate that you have that foundation, right? So that means you didn't do well in the exams. Maybe there were some reasons, so you can explain that probably in your application, but the fact of the matter is, if I only have your GPA, and if that GPA is not good enough, and if I am a professor of physics, you are an applicant of physics, I will prefer a better GPA, sure, without doubt. If you are going into corporate environment, if you want to go into banks or financial institutions, I think soft skills are extremely important, because if you are client-facing, the clients will never pretty much come and ask you what's your GPA. They couldn't care less, right? I mean, they sure care about how much you know your stuff, as in, do you know what you're supposed to do, and have you got your grounds covered in terms of if you are giving a sales pitch on selling particular types of bonds or particular types of asset classes, and if you don't know how they work, what the returns are, what the risk revenue models are, not a good thing, right? So you have to know, but that being said, it's a lot of first impression, it's a lot of how you come across in a corporate environment, so I think those soft skills are extremely key. That's what I
Skills that you mentioned ownership. I want to know the actual meaning of ownership. Does it mean the responsibility, taking responsibility? I want to know the actual meaning of ownership.
She wants to know the ownership meaning, actual meaning of ownership.
Responsibility, how responsible you are.
I think those are two really good questions. First of all, I don't have a technical definition of ownership, but my understanding of ownership is whenever you take something as your own, whenever you basically go out there and tell that this is like my money, I've invested my money, and I want to ensure that I get the best return out of that possible. So if I give you, so let's say if you have some money, or if you have earned something, if you're working and you get your salary, you don't just waste it. You want to, you're very careful. Usually, most of the irrational people are quite careful about how they spend that money. They have to pay their rent, they have to pay their bills, right? And they'll only buy their luxury goods at the end of their mandatory goods, right? So that's ownership. Similarly, at a workplace, if you are going there and if you are waiting for people to tell you what you have to do, that is acceptable in the first day, that is acceptable in the first week, maybe in the first month, not acceptable after that. Because if I am somebody's boss, number one, I don't want to micromanage, because I believe that person should have come prepared to work. I don't want to train somebody, that's HR's job, or the training department's job. Sure, I will train them in the context of the job, but not basic things about like how to compose an email. That's ridiculous, right? So those kind of things fall under ownership, in the sense that that person should understand what his or her responsibilities are, and once they do, they should really think of it as if that is their duty and responsibility, that is their job to get it done, and their success and failure is correlated with that project or those assignments' success and failure. If that assignment is successful, he is successful at his job, or she is successful at his job. I think that's the level of commitment you need to have for ownership. That's just my understanding of ownership. And the second thing about efficiency, I think it's the best way to really improve your efficiency. The way I have experienced it is by challenging